Hey, are you looking at buying or selling a house with solar panels attached to it? And you're wondering what the next steps are, or what all is involved, or how hard or how easy it's going to be? If so, this is a video for you. Hey, this is Ron with Keller Williams Elite Realty here in sunny Phoenix, Arizona with the Ron and Jill Group. Before we get started, please hit that subscribe button down below, turn on the bell for notifications, and we post content here all the time. Now, let's get to the show. When it comes to the solar panels, regardless what side of the fence you're on, what you think about them, whether you like them, dislike them, they do have a pretty good purpose. And depending how the lease or the sale of those solar panels is structured will depend on whether you want to get them or not, or move into a house that already has solar panels on them. Here in sunny Phoenix, Arizona, we go ahead and use something called the Solar Lease Sale Assumption Addendum. Yeah, try saying that a few times fast, huh? Now, for this addendum, I'll go ahead and link it in the video description below, so you can go ahead, check it out, and look at it yourself. Now, the first thing that everybody should be worried about, whether it's the buyer or the seller, is going to be if the buyer is able to purchase the home. Because you have to think about it, whether there's a lease on those solar panels or you're going to assume a loan, there is added debt. So that's going to overall affect the debt to income ratio. And when it comes to lenders, they're going to be taking that very seriously as well. Also, some other considerations too, is there a lease acceleration clause? Now also, if it is on a lease, can it just be bought out? I've seen this happen with other clients we represented for the sale side, is that we were able to go ahead and negotiate and get down to a lower price to buy out the solar panels. And when it does come back to leasing them back, so if the person is going to go ahead and lease it, if the buyer is going to lease it back, can they get a lower lease price? Because after all, go figure, the solar panels are a little bit older by the time the next buyer gets it. Just saying. Also, something to look at too, if you're the buyer, is there going to be any tax incentives or anything else that's out there that's going to help you out as the home buyer for having solar panels on your new home? Another thing to look at too, and this is where I see some people where they kind of have the buyer's remorse when it comes to solar panels or some other things that kind of give homes with solar panels a bad rap at times. If there is an escalation clause over time, so say on the first year they're paying $100 a month for the solar panels, great. After that they're paying $125, then $150, so on and so forth. And next thing you know, after about 20 years, there's just going to be this huge payment where really it's not even worth it. So whether it's coming from the buyer side or the seller side, make sure you have all the documentation pertaining to those solar panels. Call up the lessor, the person that has the lease and is in charge of the lease, and get an up-to-date version of the lease itself or the loan that you currently have on it. Also, you want to provide the name and phone number of the lessor to the buyer if you're the seller. Something I tell the sellers to do immediately, and I'm talking as soon as we sign the contract, I'm telling them, hey, get on the phone to whoever's controlling the lease to get all the necessary paperwork ready to sign it over to the buyer. And I have seen when it comes to these solar companies is usually one of two things. Number one, they are straight awesome. I mean, everything's moving fast, everything's moving smooth, good communication all the way around, everything got taken care of. And I have seen the complete opposite as well. So it's kind of, you're going to get one or the other, and it's kind of balanced out 50-50. So you're going to get some good ones, and you're definitely going to get some bad ones. And a great example of that is we sold a home, actually it was a while ago, we sold a home, and it has solar panels on it. The communication was great, everything was going smooth, and you just couldn't ask for a better time. About a month later, we were representing a buyer for the purchase of the home. It did have solar panels on it, and it was a nightmare situation where myself as the buyer's agent, the seller's agent, we were both calling at least 10 times a day to try to get a hold of somebody, try to get the documentation, and try to get the ball moving. And it was just met with a casual, oh, well, I got this many days to do it in. And we're like, hey, listen, we're going to be already past the closing date. You need to speed it up. And we were doing everything on our end, and we eventually got everything taken care of, though. But it's those moments right there where the agents really have to step in and make the phone calls and be persistent along with the home seller itself. So you have all these different parties, and on top of that too, we were getting the lender involved because the debt to income ratio was changing, like I said too. So there was a lot of people trying to make communication and try to make this happen. Eventually, we made it happen. So also, some things to really have and that really analyze is the following. You want to get at least a year's worth of electricity bills, so you can see what the actual cost of the electric bill is going to be. And ultimately, you want to see if it's worth it. If you're having like a $400 or $500 lease per month on top of an electric bill, I don't think it's going to be a good deal. So that's why it's really important to look at the numbers. Something the agent can really build that good rapport with the seller's agent is find out how many people are living in the house. What kind of consumption do they have? Do you have a person that's upstairs and keeping it at about like 50 degrees year round? Or is it more of a casual use throughout the day? Or are they having to do laundry for like 5, 7, 10 people or something like that? Do they have other hobbies that requires a lot of electricity? So getting to understand and know the consumption and the energy use of that home will be helpful as well, and determine if you're going to get a good deal or not. Another thing for out here in Arizona is knowing how many months out of the year are these people staying in the house. If they provide you a year's worth of electricity bills, but they're only there for 6 months out of the year, you're not getting that good of an accurate picture. Now, there are some timelines. The seller has 3 days to provide all documentation once the offer is accepted. The buyer can reject it and pretty much get out of the deal 5 days after getting the documentation or within that inspection period. And it usually goes for whichever is greater. Also, the buyer has to have approval to either take over the loan and put it in their name or assume the lease. And this must be done 3 days prior to closing. And when it comes to the solar addendum, it pretty much is a very important piece of paper, and it's going to really help out the buyer to understand what they need to do. And also, it's going to help out the seller with everything they need to provide. And of course, it's going to keep everybody out of hot water or have hurt feelings or anything like that later on down the road. One of the things I tell the buyers is don't be afraid to get professional help. This help can be in the form of lawyers to ensure all the paperwork is on the up and up and there's no hidden agendas or pretty much, hey, read the fine print and you're going to be owing us a ton of money within a few years or something like that. Get an attorney to look over the documentation for you. Another thing is get a roof inspector up there to ensure that everything is installed correctly, there's no leaks or any sign of damage or something that has to be taken care of. Another one is get a solar panel expert. There are some homes that I've seen out, they have way too many solar panels on their roof and they really don't need that many. So pretty much they went complete overkill when they were putting the solar panels up and there's really no need for it. And some of the highlights for that addendum, how's this going to impact your insurance and the insurance ability of those solar panels? How old is the system? And something to think about is that technology is moving forward. The solar panels are getting better and better year over year. So how old is this solar panels? An analogy I use with clients is, okay, you have a brand new car. How good is that car going to be running and functioning and performing after, say, about 5 or 10 years? What kind of maintenance needs to be required and done on those solar panels? What kind of maintenance has already been done on those solar panels? What kind of repair work has been done? Is there any other extra monthly fees that go into these solar panels? Are there any other transfer fees from the seller to the buyer and the buyer now assuming those solar panels? Is there a grid tie-in with these solar panels where all the energy that you're producing per day, what you don't use, could go back to the power grid and you're going to be getting a credit from the utility company? What kind of lease terms do you have involved? Is there any type of output guarantees? I mean, heck, we're living here in sunny Arizona where it's pretty much sunshine all the time out here. Are they going to guarantee you a certain type of output for these solar panels? Are there any tax benefits or future tax benefits that you as a new home buyer are going to receive? Or is this all going to go back to the solar company? You don't know. And here's the big one right here. What kind of warranties are there? The last thing you want to have is a bunch of dead solar panels on your rooftop. All right, folks, that was a brief overview of the solar panels. I'm going to go ahead and have that addendum in the video description below. Before we leave, please hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell for notifications. If you have any questions, feel free to look in the video description at my Calendly. We'll set up a time to talk, or just leave a comment. We'll talk to you soon.